Hey guys, it's me again, and I've been wanting to make this video for a very long time um, because it works for me, and it really cuts down on the amount of time it takes to make a quilt sandwich. And this works for a small quilt like a table runner, which I'm doing today, or a large quilt. You just have to do it sort of in sections. And it is a form of spray basting. However, a huge shout out goes to Kim Jameson Hurst from Chatterbox Quilts. I have her video on my website, so you can check it out there. But it was her initial idea of how to make your own quilt basting spray, and that's part of what her video is. But I want to show you how I use it and how simple and quick it is. So I'm gonna go to a shot of my table runner and just show you what it is I do. This is a spray bottle filled with the spray basting stuff that you make yourself. What is it? Flour and water with a little bit of salt and rubbing alcohol. And the rubbing alcohol helps it evaporate more quickly. But you just shake it up, and let me switch camera views so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so there's my table runner. Here's my basting spray. And I am going to take the table runner off, and I'm going to take the basting spray and just spray it all over the batting where the table runner is going to be attached to the batting. So I give it a pretty good spray, and then I come back and I position my table runner on top of the sprayed batting, just like that. And then I take my hands and I smooth it down. By the way, I starched my table runner beforehand just to give it a little more body, but now that I think about it, when I put it down on top of the basting spray that I just used, it still lies pretty flat. Now what I need to do is take a hot iron and iron the basting spray and the quilt top until it's dry. And when it's dry, those two things, those will be glued together. The top and the batting will be glued together. I like to use a piece of parchment paper because sometimes if you have overspray or you have wet areas, it can scorch your iron. Don't forget, it's flour and water. But I just take my hot iron, I turn off the steam, and I just start pressing like this. I want a really good press. I want it really flat. And let's face it, no matter what we do to try and get our quilts flat, there's always going to be places where they're not going to be flat. And as soon as you wash a quilt, I don't care how carefully you pre-wash everything, the first time you wash the quilt, after all of the pre-shrinking that you might have done, you're still going to get some more shrinkage. That's just the way it goes. So I'm going to let my iron heat up a little bit, and there's still a little bit of moisture there, but I can already feel over here in the corner that this is starting to fuse. And it's going to stay fused through the entire quilting process. Now normally what I would do is I would fuse the back first so that if there were any sort of puffs or bumps or something like that, it would happen on the back once I started spray basting the top of the quilt to its batting. I just want you to see, I can't get my finger under there. And it's going to need a little more. But now I'm going to do the bottom half, or for you, the top half. And I'm just going to get it as dry as I can on this pass so that there's not a whole lot of wet basting spray when I take the parchment paper off and start using just my iron. And so that's looking pretty good. And I just want to feel around the edges. It's pretty well, it's just a little bit tacky. What can happen is your iron can scorch if you use a whole lot of spray and you don't put any sort of barrier between your quilt top and the iron. So I'm ironing it down, and you want to be careful when you come to the edges where your batting is. I'm using Warm and Natural, my favorite, and if it's really wet, when the iron hits it, the batting might very well stick to your iron. And you can see it's doing it a little bit, but not much. And you can see how concerned I am about it, because I know it's just flour and water, and all I have to do is wash my iron, you know, just clean off the sole plate, and it'll be fine. And I can feel that this is getting nice and dry. And as far as I'm concerned, this is a whole lot easier and a whole lot faster than either pinning, basting, and think about what things are like after you used an aerosol store-bought quilt basting spray. I mean, what you get is a whole lot of overspray that remains sticky. I have 3 small dogs, and if I use an aerosol quilt basting spray, they kind of get stuck to the floor. Now here in the corner, I'm just going to put a little more because I'd like the corner stuck a little bit better. And so I'm just going to put some there, let the iron sit on it and dry that part out. And since this is only a table runner, I have much more control over it when I start quilting it. Now, how does it go when you start quilting with this quilt basting spray? It is a breeze to do. And I want you to watch what I'm going to do next. What I'm going to do next is try and find my scissors. Here they are. And the first thing I'm going to do is I have a whole big piece of batting here. And I want to just cut the quilt top away from that big piece of batting. Bear with me. I don't have batting scissors. You know, those things that look like hedge trimmers. I ain't got those. And then I'm just going to come up here, and that will release the big piece of batting so that I can move this around. Okay, so that's cut out. I'm going to give it another little press just to be sure. This time I'm going to put some steam on it. I'm not worried about the steam reactivating the quilt basting spray any more than what you know when you have gravy on something and it dries, even when you put water on it to try and wipe it up, it takes a little bit because it forms almost like a paste. And that's what this is. So now I have my top fused to the batting. This is fused. I mean, I'm trying to get the edges up with my fingers and they don't want to come up. And here's where I do something a little different. What I will do with this quilt top is, now I am a very cautious quilter. Quilting is not my forte. And so when I go to quilt something, I want to make sure that I'm setting myself up for success. And if I want to do a lot of quilting on this table runner, what I do is I just take it as is, because the batting has not only been fused to the top, but also there's very little lint that you will get in your machine. As a matter of fact, I've never had a problem with lint. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to start doing my smaller, more intricate quilting with just the top and the batting. And you can see it because it doesn't have the backing on it, that it is easier to maneuver under the needle of your machine. Then once that's done, I will then use the quilt basting spray to put the back on. When I put the back on, all of the quilting that I did will be hidden. You won't be able to see it. And so I don't have to trim thread ends. I don't have to worry about really anything. And then once I have the back quilted to the front, so I'm planning on doing, I think, a lot of stippling on the red, and then I'm just going to outline the stars in black in the ditch. And so I'll do all my stippling with the back unattached. Then I'll fuse the back to the back of the batting, and I will just do the outline of the stars. So I have a minimal amount of cleanup afterwards. The 3 layers will be quilted together, and I will show you what that looks like when it's done. So let me know what you thought. Thumbs up, subscribe, visit my website, quiltmavendave.com. I have to find the mouse so I can say goodbye. Goodbye.